And I want to thank you all for coming tonight. This is part of the SMOL fair. And tonight we'll be presenting Platform 101, promoting your prose. And we have Doug Cole up there in the great Northwest, and and Lizette, in San Francisco in the Bay Area. And then myself, Paul Rabinowitz, over in New Jersey, representing the East Coast, I guess. We're going to start with Doug and then go to Lizette, and then I'll finish up. So without further ado, we're also going to each talk for 20 minutes, and then we're going to leave the rest of the time at the end for Q&A if anyone has questions. Okay, so you can mute yourselves if you don't mind. And Doug, it's all you.
All right, and I have the chat feature open on the side. So if you do have questions while I'm talking, you feel free to post them in there. And if I'm multifunctioning, I'll be able to maybe catch them along the way. Otherwise, we'll wait till the end. Let's see, but I want to start by doing a share screen so you guys can all be with me on the same space. All right, so let's see. You should all be seeing, can you all see my web page there? And then you guys are lined up on the right-hand side. You see yourselves too? Cool. All right. Well, the platform building concept came to me. I was telling Lizette when I went to the San Francisco Writers Conference, I think it was in 2012, and I believe it was actually Donald Moss, the AA Moss of the Moss agency, who first used that term, or I first heard that term from him, building your platform. You want to start building your platform. And 2012, that was still when platforms were, I think even a little more rudimentary than they are by now. I mean, Facebook wasn't out that long by then, I don't think. And so at that point, I didn't really, platform just seemed like a vague term for, your presence or, your advertising of yourself. Anyway, and so I've always been sort of keeping that in mind as I've gone. And I think that at that time he even mentioned, or others mentioned, having a website. So that was one of the first things I did to start a platform upon which to build advertisement, brand, whatever of yourself. And so this is the platform. And I got my sister to help me make it with the WordPress. It's low, no cost, very cheap. And, I will improve it. It's very rudimentary right now, but I use it as the hub for a lot of other parts of the platform. So underneath the front page, I have me, and then I've got links to other places that are part of the platform. And so just as things have kind of come up along the way, I connect them into this main hub of the website. So I've got my link to Facebook. I've got a link to the AWP writers, because when you sign up and register to go to AWP, you can also have an author page there. So I've got one there, and that can build a platform. I don't have the author page up. Well, you can take a quick look at that one if you want to. And so I have the author page, and you can get to that through my website. And then I have other ones too. I have Amazon, and once you've sold, now here's the thing too, you can get an author page on Amazon, even if you haven't sold a book yet. If you have been published in a book or anthology that's being sold on Amazon, you can list yourself as an author in that too. So on my author page, I've got links to some of the journals, the anthologies like Bully Anthology that have published me, but I also have my books. So Amazon, another place to go to put your presence, put your face. Specific writer or Poets and Writers. Poets and Writers also has an author page. Put yourself on there, build your platform out there, cross-link it. And of course, this links back to the website, and you can have your own email. And then the presses that have published you, Unsolicited Press published one of my poetry books. So I have a link to that on there too, underneath. Anyway, so that's just kind of like these links on the main page are just kind of other bio main pages of other websites. And then I have books, and I have publications. Books, that's grown. When I first started this, I think the only one I had was this one, my first chapbook book, short book novella. And then I published my first small poetry collection, and then that was the only one I had. So it was really small at first. And just each time I get something new published, I include it. I put it on the website, and I put links to Amazon. I put links to Barnes and Noble. I put links to the press itself who sells it. So that's building my platform, building it from my website out. And then I also put on publications. So each year, as I publish something in journals, I will keep a list of that. In fact, I'll take you guys down here and show you. It all begins and ends with these 3 pages, which are journal submissions, closed and waiting to be submissions, and publications. So here, the journal submission. And we'll come back to this, but I just keep track of everything I'm publishing and where it's going. Anyway, in the website too, I'll have interviews. I'll have links to interviews or reviews, people that review my work, or do any Q&A with me. I'll put all those in there, and I'll also put in any kind of media. If anybody does like a recording of a reading I've done, or I do a Zoom meeting or a Zoom reading or anything like that. So I just keep, and like this from when I did a small teaching thing up on Orcas Island at Doe Bay. And so this is a link to doing that, so you can advertise in advance, but also keep it there as a record. Anyway, and then all these link out. So then as you continue to develop from the website outward, there are other places you can work from. Facebook, I've treated Facebook largely as a part of the platform. And you can be as personal with it or as professional with it as you want. I tend to use it as a very, very professional territory. So my main picture is from my more recent novel. I put that there with its little award picture on there, and then photos and videos of I got this here. Another thing you can do in building your platform: ads, little video ads. I got this done for like $20 by this developer out of India. I got a little thing on my email, and they said, we're just building our business and we want to make videos to advertise books. And I said, sure, $20, I'll do that. And they put this out so I can put it up on Instagram. I put it on my Facebook. I put it on my website. Anyway, and then how do I stop it? I want to stop it. Let's get rid of it. All right. So yeah, Facebook is useful. It gets me where I need to go to. Oh, let's see. I need to get to some of these other things. Let's see. How do I shrink you guys down? How do I shrink my share screen down? All right, there we go. YouTube. Get yourself linked. Get your YouTube whenever you. If you haven't got one, you can have your own little YouTube station on YouTube. It's also free, and I just started putting up links to any video recordings of readings I've done, and I also like to do little video poems, and I submit those to journals too. So I have those all up on here too, and you can kind of check this one out. Let's see if this one's working. And I will submit those to journals, and then I will post them here.
Like I'm driving forever.
Yes. Yeah, a while ago.
Lifetime slam up against the back.
And I just made this with my iPhone.
Even you float by in a dog.
And I did the guitar in the background to myself, all myself. And
around midnight, just when I
let's take you to the end so you can see the credits. And then I put a link at the end to my website. And so again, the platform is always keeping things knitted together, cross-knitted, cross-connected. And then sometimes, like this just happened recently, I was really shocked. Hi. I don't know where that's coming from. All right, get rid of that. Citron review. I published a poem in Citron, and then just out of the blue, they tweeted a little promo for me. I didn't know they were doing it. Just showed up in my Twitter, and they shared a link to their journal and to other poems that they found and published. And so I found that immediately, put that on my Facebook, put that on my Instagram, start putting them around, just continue to broadcast and share them out. What else do I want? Oh, one last thing, another place, this just came to me recently. If any of you have heard of this, you'll know, but one of my friends who's started a publishing house called 1111 Press, beautiful press. found this digital archive. It comes out of, Lizette comes out of San Francisco, I believe. And this is a library that they are developing, and you can upload your work there too. If it's been published, especially, then it is like a lending library, but it also is another place to house your work, part of your platform, and can be cross-linked if you want to all of your other sites and places. So that's kind of the way I've been building my platform. And these are the ones I've been comfortable using, connecting with LinkedIn. And here, I'll put a little, let me go back. I'll just get and as you can see, I'll real quick go back. I think I'm doing pretty good on time here so far, but let's see, go back to where you were. Okay, so I'm still learning this one. So as you can see, I've uploaded 2-3 of my books, but I'm not savvy enough yet to figure out how to do it with the picture on there. So this is just the text in terms of, but I've seen others who have the actual pictures on there. So I'll have to continue to tinker with this and modify it and get the actual pictures on there. But I have the text on there. So these are, borrowable. And you can see, I just did this on March 5th. I just found out about this. So this is fresh and new. But this was a cool arc. And so I'm going to put a link to this one in the chat so that you guys can have that let's see, where's the chat? So you have that accessible. All right, here we go. I'm gonna put that one up in there. And then of course, any others that that you can, let's see, what do we got here? Check about that, Lizette and Doug. Okay, is your submission list public? Oh, yeah. Hang on, my submission. You mean the Word document? No. When you publish work on YouTube or whatever, it's considered published, right? That's a great question. Yeah, it's fuzzy. It is kind of considered self-published, but YouTube, sometimes journals want you to submit things to them in an easy, they don't want a big media file. And so they will often want you to have it on Vimeo or something like that you can then give to them. I did that with Heartland Review. They didn't care. So it depends on the journal. Some will think of it as already published, some will not. It depends on how they want it. So, you can put it onto your, am I running out of time, Paul? Okay.
No, you're fine. You have another 8 minutes. All good.
Perfect. 8 minutes, all I need. So anyway, you can put it up on YouTube. I think I took down my YouTube already, but you can put it up on YouTube and then not have it viewable to anybody but yourself. So you can at least have it there, work on publishing it. Then once it's published, you can include a link to the journal you published it in on YouTube as well. Anyway, so
yeah, just to interrupt you, the submission list I was talking about wasn't your Word file. It was what you showed us on your website. So anybody can look at that.
they sure can. So in fact, that's a nice way to advertise work too. So this is, I'll go back to publications. The publications, these are only the journal publications. So I have it separate. I have books, and then I have all the journals. So each year I will update. I haven't started 2022 yet, but each year I will put in the things I've posted. And I'm going to go back and edit. This is getting a little bit heavy, but each year, like here's 2020. So I've got my publications from 2020 there. And then I'll go down to 2000. Oh, that was 2021. Sorry, here's 2020. And then 2019. And then some of them, I don't know why, that the Sandy River Reviews website, somehow when I put the link in there, it exploded. I don't know why it's big like that. 2018. And I've got it going back pretty far here to, I think, about 2004. Anyway, and so these are public. I try every once in a while I go through and I try to make sure my links are still functioning. And if they are not, sometimes I will contact the journal and ask them if they have moved it or if it's dead, and then, I'll update it that way. Anyway, this all begins and ends. All of this happens, I say, first from the website that I have, and then I build outwards from there. But it all begins and ends really with the publication process. And so for me, I've had to make that as streamlined as possible. I want that to be not, I mean, as you probably, many of you may remember, we used to put a lot of, stamps on envelopes and, mail labels and stuff. So, my way of doing that was always do do 50 of them and then just have them ready to go. So now that publication's largely done through Submittable, and those of you, probably most of you have already gotten onto that. But if you're just starting in your publication process, this is where you need to begin. You need to begin by signing up and getting an account on Submittable, because 90, I'd say, % of the journals out there now are taking they're taking submissions through Submittable. And so then, and this is a really nice way to house your documents too. So I got everything I've submitted, in progress, received, blah, blah, blah. And you can check, and I won't go over this. You guys can explore this yourself, but it allows you to look at those things that have been rejected, those things that have been accepted, those things that are still waiting. But again, like I said, it all begins and ends for me with my own Word document of where stuff is, my journal entries. So, you know, and I keep a list. I just, every time I'll do like, I'll say, okay, I haven't sent out anything for publication for a couple of weeks. And so, you know, or a couple of days, I'll start just attacking full frontal assault on the journals. And then when anything comes back rejected, I put a capital R next to it. And then that journal, Menacing Hedge, will go over to the closed or waiting to be submitted to. And then I'll have dates on when they're ready to take another submission. Sometimes they want you to wait 6 months. Sometimes you can submit right away. Sometimes they have a very narrow band of submissions. So I keep track of that on the closed list, and I keep track of what I have published on the publication list. And then this I then will whittle down and put onto my website. But I find this is the most important part for me of the whole process, is keeping track and being as organized as possible with the publication process, because I don't want it to become too complicated or too time consuming and feeling like it's becoming more of my attention than the actual writing, if you know what I mean. And that's kind of something, you know, I waited to publish for quite a while anyway, just because I didn't want to put my time into this. I wanted to just enjoy it. And so now I've got a system that feels as streamlined and as a large number of residents grant published are also not. So yes, Lizette, thank you. Yeah, not just publications, but grants and residencies. So anyway, keeping track of where and what I published, journal. These are the publications, and then what's out and what's circulating and where it is. And the nice feature about this that I use, I'll show you real quick, that makes this easier for me, is I'll use the find feature. Oh, it's already over here. And so when something comes in, like Chautauqua, I submitted to them 12 times before they accepted it. So they just accepted something from me right down here. I got that one in. But what it allows me to do is I can then, when I'm going to submit to them, I look down here. Oh, what have I sent them? They didn't want any of this. So, and also I keep track of what did they say about some of them. Does that allude to the mathematical? Yes, it does. That's that A+ for you. So anyway, this way I can see what I've submitted to people before I submit something again, and I don't send the same thing twice. Or I can kind of check, oh, maybe I'll try a different genre on them. So that's basically my process of building the platform. And it begins and ends really with your actual publication process, because that's something you have then to broadcast, something to share. And then it begins and ends in the virtual world, in the meta world, if you will, out here for me with the website, then out to Facebook and other publications. So that seems to be the way that I've gone about it, and that has worked for me, and I've enjoyed it. And you should always be having fun. Just remember that you got to have, if you're not having fun, do something different. I mean, don't mean about writing. I mean, the publication process and the platform building process. And I do find it fun. It's kind of a nice, it's a no-brainer thing. You know, you do develop relationships with some editors, and so then you can develop a dialogue with them, and that's different. You submit in a different way. But when you're still just kind of submitting to journals that don't even list their editors unless you go hunt it down on the masthead, you know, just keep bombarding them. That's what I do. And then keep track of where stuff's gone. And yeah, that's about it. I think that's good. So if there's any questions, well, I think I'm up at my time, right? So I think I'm going to turn it over now to our next communicator.
Doug, can you take us off of share screen?
I will take us off of shared screen, and I will stop the share. Sorry, that's a bad joke. All right. And now I will mute and turn it over to, I think, Lizette, you next? Yeah. Paul? Lizette. All right. Take it away, Lizette.
Thanks so much, Doug. I took notes. Look, I took notes on your
You
talk.
did. Oh, thanks. All right.
Things I'm going to be looking up.
Terrific.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Lizette Wanzer. I'm in San Francisco. I just want to acknowledge, because I am in Northern California, that I am a guest on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. I do recognize that I benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. I pay my respects by acknowledging the ancestors elders and relatives of the alumni community. All right. So what I decided to do for this is take a little bit of a few pieces from different professional development workshops, because that's what I love to teach. And I decided to pull some practices from different workshops, and I'm going to try to get through them all without speaking too quickly. So I chose 6 practices for you to help you elevate your literary career, perhaps help you get published in better paying journals, or paying journals if you're not being paid now, and help you basically just be more visible and also be a better literary citizen, because those 2 things go hand in hand. So I'm going to introduce a few practices from those workshops. Practice 1 is create and utilize a literary calendar. And that should be done in conjunction with using a professional submission tracker. So there are a whole bunch of calendar apps out there and a whole bunch of submission trackers you can use. The one that is best for you is the one that you'll actually use. So it doesn't have to be, as the students are always asking me, which one do you use? It doesn't matter. The one that you like best is the one that you're going to use. So I will give you a peek at the literary calendar, which is kind of, not kind of, it is the basis of all of the other practices that I teach. So hold on here while I share, and I'll give you a peek at mine if I can find it here. Where are you? Oh. Okay, wait. Can anyone see this calendar? Okay, great. So here's my literary calendar from March. Of course, we have AWP coming up this week, so here that is. What else do we have? Shut Up and Write. I belong to a couple of those groups. I've got a couple of other writing accountability groups on here, such as This Write-In. Here's today's event. Here's another writing accountability group I have on here. On Wednesday here, I've got a class I'm teaching on the lyric essay. Here's my session at AWP. Here's a session I want to go to at AWP. Here's a writing marathon taking place on April 1st. Let's see what other interesting things are on here. Application open on April 4th. I'm supposed to check this at 3 p.m. I'm supposed to check if this application is open for platforum.org. So that might be a contest opportunity, a publication opportunity. I don't know what kind it is, but I researched it earlier and put it on here and assigned it to myself. So I will do that on that date at that time. Here is a note to remind me to check, is this application open? This looks like it's for the Nathan Cummings Fellowship. So I'm supposed to come here and check and see if on April 11th, this is open for applications. If it is, then I'll start working on that. What is this? Oh, I'm reading a piece, and unfortunately for me, it's at 6:30 in the morning because it's an East Coast reading. So I have that on here too. And so these are the types of things, anything literary goes on this calendar. You do not mix this with your social calendar or your work calendar. It's a separate calendar just for your literary life. I even have the birthdays of my colleagues in my writing studio on here. I have when I'm going to apply to something. Here's one. This is a residency that I want to apply for, and I put important to remind myself that I shouldn't let that one slide. So there are different things on here. So this is how you structure all of the other practices. And the important thing to do here is, I forgot to start my timer. The important thing to do here is to set 2 reminders per task. One that's closer to the task and one that's further away from the task. That gives you a chance for, life to happen and you to miss maybe the first deadline, but then you still have a second deadline that will pop up and it's closer. So you have less time to get your task accomplished, but at least it won't bypass you. If you happen to look at a contest or, I don't know, residency opportunity today, and you look and you see the deadline was yesterday, that's okay. Just put it on for 2023. Set up your reminders and it'll pop up in plenty of time. You'll be ready for it for next year. No problem. So also, in conjunction with this, you want to use a professional submission tracker. There are a whole bunch of them out there. I used to use one called Literary Writers Database, which I really like. And there's one called The Grinder. There are a whole bunch of them. But my students actually turned me on to Duotrope. So I defected from Writer's Digest. I used to have one and came over here to Duotrope. So you have a little table here showing what your submissions have been. You can see what you sent the past 12 months, what you sent this month, what your acceptance ratio is, how many submissions you have pending, the different genres in which they're pending. They give you a nice little congratulations if you've had a pretty high, a good year or a good month. What can I show you? Okay, so here are all the submissions that I've made here. I'm applying for grants, funding, contest. This is the conference. Here's another conference. Here's a residency. The keys here are P for pending, R for rejection, A for acceptance. And then of course, publications. So journals, any opportunity connected with writing, I track here in this tracker. And it's easy because you can just search in here, type in whatever market you're looking for. And Duotrope has, this is the number of current markets they have. So that's a large number. So I don't like to type things that I know are already someplace else. So I'm lazy that way. So I like to come here and just search. You can search publishers, you can search agents, you can look by the title. I'll put in Black Warrior Review. Okay, so here they are. They're a paying market. They take fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and visual art as well. It says it's semi-open, so maybe it's open for some things and not for others. And then you can read all about the market here. You can go to the website right from here. If you make a submission, just click it here and fill it in. And then you can also see a bunch of information about the market. So they're open to many submissions from this June through September. Here's what they take. Here are the length details. Here are the types of submissions that they will accept. And then it's broken down by genre. Here's what they'll do for, except for nonfiction. Poetry is closed, so that's why they're partially open, okay. They're not accepting poetry right now. Visual art though is still open. So if you're a graphic artist, graphic novelist, that is okay, you can submit there. Here is the aggregate of everybody who's using this database. Here's their success rate with this market. They've gotten over 1,000 reports from 438 different people within the past year. Here's the response, the days reported, the average mean looks like it's about 87 days. I like this because when you look up a market in poets and writers, they'll sometimes say, we respond in 2 months. But then you'll come here and you'll see that maybe it's a little bit over that. So that means I'm not going to follow up and harass them and say, hey, I haven't heard back yet. You said it's 2 months, because I know from the real-time data that it's longer than that. So I'll wait until, you know, it's the 87 days or so. It'll also give you cross-references where to, if you're submitting here, you might also find your work to be a fit for these journals. And then some other information, the most common submission fee, blah, blah, blah. So I'm using this one, Duotrope, but that doesn't mean that's the one you should use. There's one called The Grinder. There's one called writersdb.com. There are those two, I think, are free. And then this one is about $60 a year. And then Duotrope also has a whole bunch of other great stuff on it that we can't go into it. And yay, there's a fan in the audience who loves Duotrope already. Yay, Margaret. So literary calendar and submission tracker, so that the process is somewhat automated for you. And will save you some time and give you some insights as well. Practice 1. Practice 2, have a literary LinkedIn page, not just one for your day job. So, oh, wait a minute. How do I get out of this? Okay, we're gonna try this again. Can you see the LinkedIn page? Okay, so this LinkedIn page says that I'm a pharmaceutical editor at #Health Agency, which I am on a freelance basis. Helps me pay my rent. And so all of this is geared obviously towards that, right? Shows the experience, what you would expect to see on a typical, LinkedIn profile, my hazmat certification, volunteering I've done that's related, blah, blah, blah. So that's that. But then there's also this. And this is my author profile. So here it says I'm an author and trainer, which I am. This is a completely different profile. It's pitched differently. It's meant for a completely different audience. It's got a different URL to it. This is the one that I'm going to use when I'm applying to read at conferences or applying for funding or residency. This is the URL I'll put in there, not the other one, right? This one. So this has a completely different about statement. This is part of my artist statement here. I've got my experience is completely different. No one in the health field is interested in this stuff, right? And I wouldn't put this stuff on the health profile. So this is all literary related. I'm an NWU member, some of the places I teach. The education is the same, but the experiences are all different. And try to put some media in your experience section. Try to put some photos, videos of you reading, maybe a PDF to one of, or a link to a publication or two, or a PowerPoint to a slideshow you've presented, or even a flyer that has shown that you have presented somewhere. Try to put some media in with the experiences. You want to look as though you're going places and you're involved in a community. You're not just sitting in a dark corner writing just for yourself. You're invested in the larger literary world outside of yourself, and you care about other people's successes and not just your own. Because that's who funders want to fund, and that's who residencies and conferences want to invite to come in and speak. Or read your poetry or your essays or your fiction. This is from AWP 2020. That's right, that was right before the lockdown. Lit crawl, blah, blah, blah. What else is on here? Conferences. So have a literary LinkedIn profile. Make sure you don't just have a day job one, and take it seriously. Have a professional photo. Don't have a selfie. Don't have a picture taken on your iPhone. Don't have pictures of you playing with your garage band, playing with the dog or the baby. What else have I seen? People in their bathing suits, in pools. It's not a good look. You want your profile to show that you understand that writing is both a creative endeavor and a business endeavor. So that's what, you want this to look like that. You take this as seriously as you would your day job. You're not just a weekend warrior. You're not just a hobbyist. Okay. So that is practice 2. Practice 3. Create a literary CV. So I think Doug actually showed you part of one. Let's see, get mine open here. So there are many different styles that you can use to do your CV. I tend to use AWP style. So here's part of mine. You want to use a sans serif font. Why? Because that's easier on the eyes reading on screen, and everybody's reading everything on screen these days. So a sans serif font of any kind. Heading, education should go at the top, then publications, AWP style goes ahead and follows the distinctions you see here. But there are other distinctions you can use. And also AWP follows this hanging indent. I'm not a fan of it, but whatever. Your publications by genre, any blogs, any reviews or publicity about you can also go on here. Your research interests, if you teach, your teaching interests. If you do teach, where you've taught, maybe the courses that you've taught. Let's see. Also, the teaching is broken out by institutions and then cultural, nonprofit, and arts centers, which are actually my favorite places to teach. Conference presentations, yes. And try to present at conferences sooner rather than later. Don't wait until you have a big meaty CV or have, you know, a million publication credits. Try to do that sooner than later. The sooner the better to read your creative writing at a conference. Grants that you've gotten, fellowships and residencies, blah, blah, blah. Service to the profession. I serve as a judge for 2 different writing contests. I also am a webmaster for one of those contests. Again, you want to look like a good literary citizen, and you want to be a good literary citizen, not just look like one. You want to be one. Professional affiliations, the professional organizations you belong to, very important. You want to join these organizations for networking opportunities, but also because it's a way of keeping abreast of where conversations are moving in the industry. And you will find out about opportunities through those organizations that you might not learn about anywhere else. So what's a good literary organization? It should have a formal set of governing documents. So a bylaws or a constitution or something similar like that. Maybe their meetings follow Robert's Rules of Order. They should have officers, the majority of which should be elected and not appointed. It should have membership dues of some kind. And they should have an annual or biannual national or international conference. If they have a regional conference or a local conference, that's fine, but that shouldn't take the place of an annual international or national conference. So those are some good reputable ones. I'm also going to put a handout in here for you. Oops. Of some professional literary organizations that you can look at. These aren't all of them. These are just, you know, the ones I know about. Paul, how's my time?
You have 2 minutes. Lizette, I do want to ask you, I think there's a question in the chat, and I'm not sure if you answered it. It's an interesting question that says, do you have a separate email address as Lizette the writer?
Yes, yes, I do. You should have a separate email address. One that's just for your literary career, not one that you mix up with your social life or work or other things, just a separate one just for your literary life. Yes, and that's also what you'll set up your second LinkedIn profile under, is using that email address. Yes. Absolutely. Other questions? Okay, let's see. Attend a writers conference. I said that. Literary CV, I said that. And review an opportunities database on a regular basis. Schedule the time when you'll do this in your literary calendar, okay? Whether that's 2 Saturdays per month from 10 a.m. to noon, I will look for places to submit my work. Or I will look for places to apply for a residency. Or whatever it is you're looking to do. Schedule that time in your literary calendar, looking for grants, looking for publications, contests as well, because those are important feathers in your cap. I'm putting a few of my favorites here in that for you. Places to look for publications as well. Poets and Writers is a great place, but it's not the only place to look. Duotrope has a bunch. Submittable does. Just know that Submittable only contains the markets that have paid to have an account on Submittable. So there are a whole host of markets that don't use Submittable and they use their own submission tracker or slide room or something else. So don't limit yourself to just Submittable, even though it's uber convenient when something is on there. Okay, I've put some contests in there as well. And that is sort of the fire hose introduction to some of my practices. If you're interested, I will put my project website in here as well for you. That project also has a related conference, so I will put that in there. That was last year. I will put my author website if you have questions for me later. And then lastly, I will just upload some of my upcoming classes. I teach craft classes as well in flash fiction and lyric essay, but professional development is my favorite thing to do. So that's normally what I love teaching. And thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Lizette. And again, if anybody has questions for Doug or Lizette, you can put them in the chat. And after I speak, we'll go back to the questions. Also, Doug, if you can put your email, also, so if people want to reach out to you, that would be great as well. So let me just put myself here on pin. So my name is Paul Rabinowitz, and I came to writing about 12 years ago. So I'm going to approach it also from a slightly different angle. It's more of two worlds that I am involved with. One is I'm the founder of a nonprofit that focuses a lot on writing and collaborations with other mediums, animation, dance, music, and so forth. And I'm also going to focus on Paul Rabinowitz, the writer, and how I have to bridge those two worlds. So first and foremost, I have 5 areas that I'll go through very, very quickly. Accessibility is the first. And when I talk about accessibility, I'm a little bit old school with that. I'm a little bit new school with a lot of things, but old school with accessibility. I, for example, have these things called business cards, and that's because I am out in the public eye all the time. I average about 4 meetings every day, 2 on Zoom. It used to be 4 during the pandemic, but now all 4 are out in the public. So somebody might ask me, oh, how can I find your writing? Sure, I can give them my email. But I really like giving them a card. First of all, it has my aesthetic, which I think is very important, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And then I also have the white card, the black card for my personal writing. And it's just for me, I'm a visual person. So I know, hey, they're asking about the nonprofit. So this is what I'm going to give them. They're asking about me, the writer. I give them that. And it has all the information, which is basically just the access to the website. And that brings me to number 1, which is accessibility. So my old school world says to me that I am a fan of easy access, meaning that if I go on to a website, let's say I meet someone, let's say they are a fiction writer. I'm primarily a fiction writer, but I also have a lot of published work in poetry. But primarily I'm a novelist, written novellas and so forth. So if I meet a fiction writer, I want to know what their writing is all about. The first thing I do is go onto their website, because the website is, for me, their platform. And I don't know them. I don't know what they've done, I don't want to search their Facebook, their Instagram, their Twitter account. I want everything on one space. And I think that Lizette and Doug really showed the importance of that website. Personally, as a writer, I spend a good amount of time on it. I'm going to go to it. Let me go to it first of all, and then we can talk a little bit more about it. So here's my website. And I've spent a lot of time sort of branding myself because I do a lot of performance art. I'm right now currently into doing films where a lot of my short stories and poems are being turned into films. I work a lot with dance and choreography. So a lot of dances and choreographies turn my films into experimental films. So I personally kind of have to give off in my website this aura that I am not just a writer. I'm also a photographer, and I'm also a performer, and I'm also a filmmaker. So that's really important. So when somebody looks at my website, they're not going to see my headshot. They're going to see me in one of my performances where I'm sort of kneeling down and speaking to the audience. You can see sort of in the background, there is a dancer who was interpreting my work in this performative space in Brooklyn, New York. But it's black and white. And also that's really important to me because my aesthetic is black and white. Being a photographer, and I'll show you that in a minute, but I don't want to veer from the writing angle because this is really about writing. First and foremost, I'm a writer. Everything for me stems out from the writing. So whether it be my filmmaking, whether it be my performance poetry, whether it be my open mics, whether it be my live performances, it's all based off of the written word. I am not a spoken word artist. I can't get up there and memorize anything. Maybe it's my age, I don't know, but I have no ability to memorize. So I've turned my platform sort of in with this ability to get up with a book and read with a book in hand. And what you see here where I don't have a book in my hand is simply because it was like 4 words that I was repeating over and over again. So getting back to accessibility, I want to go onto somebody's website that is simple, that's easy, that I don't have a lot of things that I have to navigate through. So that's how I formulated my website. I initially worked with a web designer, but now I can do it all on my own. I use Squarespace. It's super easy. And so, of course, you go to the About page, and I work on this, and I'm sure Lizette and Doug would agree. The bio is so crucial because the bio is something that's not only on your website and explains in a succinct fashion who you are without going on and on and on, because actually this was just edited just a couple of days ago. I had somebody look at it, and it's always, it's large, and you always want to kind of make it more succinct so people don't spend hours looking at your bio. It's also important because this bio also becomes your platform when you submit work, whether it be through Submittable or Duotrope, it doesn't matter. They always want to have a cover letter and a bio. So you're going to be using parts of this bio in whatever you submit. Super important. And I would say that I'm updating this thing at least once a week, especially after things are published. And I used to have this thing where I used to have everything on there that was published, and then an editor, the current editor that I'm working with said, why don't you just have like the most important ones first and do 4 or 5 of those rather than having every one of those. And I did that, and that's why this was just re-edited today. But when you go to my books, obviously the books are there. You can access them, you can buy them, you can read about them. Like photos because it just makes things easy and simple. You want to learn more, you want to order a copy, here's where you can buy it. And the same, let's say with Limited Light. Easy, simple, and it's also a way that you can sell your books. Obviously, I have the publishers can sell their books for me, but I also have the ability to sell as well directly off of my website, including with Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and everything else. Probably the most important page on the website is writing. Like Doug and Lizette, all the time. I'm prolific. I write 4 or 5 hours every morning. And because I only started recently, I feel I have a lot of catching up to do. And I'm going to get to that in my last thing, which what is our plan? What is our goal? What are we doing this for? And I'm going to get to that. But I have a simple page with my publications and podcasts. So there's a podcast up here. This particular piece, Little Gem Magnolia, which was published in Metaworker magazine, was also turned into a film. And that film actually just won Best Experimental Short at the Oregon Film Festival. So it's important because it's not only important for me as a writer who is very interested in film, but it's also important for Metaworker. So I'm always trying to give back to my publishers. If a publisher is publishing my work, I feel good about that. I want to know more about the publisher, the publication, what they're doing, how they're doing it. And I want to do things that says to that publisher, you're publishing a good person. You know, you're publishing a person who cares about the writing community, as Lizette said over and over, super important. We are one community, and no matter what else we do within that one community, really primarily we are writers, and we have this creative spirit ingrained in all of us, everyone who's here tonight. So we're creative souls, but we do all these other things, but primarily we're writers. So if somebody publishes me, I want to give back to them as well. I want to shoot them out on Facebook, on Instagram, on my website. I want to write an email, which I'll get to all this in just a couple seconds. And I want to show them my love as well. Okay, so publications and podcasts, obviously something like Vacations will be published. It's coming soon. That's Evening Street Press out in Sacramento. Citrus Honey Cake also Evening Street, but all the other ones you click on. The Rose, Montreal Review. They also published my photography. So this is my photographs. I'll get to the photography in just a minute. But again, everything I do is based on the writing. So even my photography, they matched this photograph called Spin Cycle with the poem that I wrote called Spin Cycle. So it's kind of like they get 2 for 1. You know, they get Paul the writer, but also Paul the photographer. This is another one called Outside My Window, which is direct. It correlates with this poem called Rose. This is called another piece, Cottage, and it correlates with Softcover. So when I submit, I will submit and say to them, hey, let me see if I can just get out of this real quick. Yeah, I will say to them, thank you so much for accepting my piece. I really appreciate it. Thank you, thumbs up, exclamation marks. I also happen to be a photographer. And if I know that that journal takes uses photographs on their website or in their books, their journals, I'm going to say, hey, why don't you have a look at my photography? So again, I'm opening up dialogue. I'm opening up this little relationship with these publishers because I believe in them. That's why we submit to them. So try to build that up as well. My next thing, so very quickly, I'm not going to go through everything, but it's my photography. You can find it on my photography page as well. I wrote a book that has my photographs and prose. Most of the photographs that you see on my photography page are also in my book. So very simple, easy to use. But you also can see those photographs have been published in. I only submit to art journals. So I'm an art photographer, and I only submit to art journals. And a lot of those art journals are literary art journals. They have literary works as well. So once again, I'm dovetailing in. I want my photographs to be partnered next to a really great prose piece. You know, maybe one day it'll be next to Doug's piece or Lizette's piece. That makes me feel good because once again, it's all about the community. It's about elevating yourself as a writer, but also collaborating with other writers. And I feel that that's super important for me as an artist and as a writer. This is Arts by the People. This is, well, this is the foundation that, the nonprofit that I founded in 2012, 2009. And I'm not going to go into this, but Arts by the People is on my personal art site. Again, I always separate out the two. When I'm running workshops or I'm working with teaching artists with Arts by the People, they are working for the organization, and I am out there. I'm the liaison between the organization and the teaching artists, and I hire them to work with us to run workshops, et cetera, et cetera. That is Paul, the executive director. Paul, the artist, has this website, and I really have to be careful never to cross over. Like if I have a new book out, I'm not going to go on to Arts by the People as executive director and say, hey, come out and buy my book. That would be crossing the line. So as executive director, I support the arts, I support writers. That's half my world. And the other half, of course, is me as a writer, as a personal writer. Also, if you have a chance, you want to come back on, you want to see some of these films. All these films are winning awards. It's super fantastic. I mean, it's a dream for me. It's something that I'm getting more and more interested in. Villa de Misteria is actually in a film festival in Philadelphia the same day as AWP. I'll be at AWP, and then I got to run over because my film Villa de Misteria, which is another piece that I wrote, Little Gem Magnolia, another piece. 2022, I have 4 films coming out. And again, I write the pieces, and then I collaborate with choreographers, directors, cinematographers, actors to bring these stories to life. All of this helps with my platform. All of this helps with Paul as the writer, because now a literary journal sees in the bio, hey, this guy is also winning festivals. Well, that's kind of cool. Let's take a closer look at him. So I only came to this when I was 50. I'm 61 now. So I have a long time that I have to catch up and play kind of pretty quickly on that. So that's why I'm doing things at a fairly fast clip. I have this third section of the 5 is called Get Up to the Mic. As Margie knows, I know Margie from our community here in New Jersey. It is super important as writers to be out there. Lizette said it, and I'm going to absolutely put the stamp on that. There's only, it's 1 in a million to get that huge publication, that huge advance. I mean, it's really hard. And that's not why I'm in it. I'm in it because I'm an artist and I have no choice. It's my creative spirit brings me into this, and it is what it is. I can't get away from it. So while I'm here enjoying the ride, I want to be out there. I read poetry almost once a week, whether it be live in New York City or upstate New York or New Jersey. I run my own, it's called The Platform. There's no correlation between that and this, but it's a literary open mic, prose poets and nonfiction writers. I'm constantly out there, and now I've grown to love it. My first time, I was so nervous, getting up there, reading a small poem, and now I'm comfortable. I can play with my voice. I can do all kinds of things. And that's super important, because at the end of the reading, somebody might come up to me and say, hey, do you have a book? Hey, do you have a literary journal that I give them my card and I said, please have a look, reach out to me. I'd love to chat more. And that's how I build and build and build and build. And all these people that I meet at all these events go on to my email list, which will be the last thing I'll talk about. So I call that Get Up to the Mic. Google San Francisco, if you're in the Bay Area, Google literary open mics. If you're in Georgia, Atlanta, Google literary open mics. If you're not comfortable reading in public, go there, sit, watch, listen. I guarantee you by the second or third time, you'll be itching to get up there on the stage, and it feels great. So very quickly, because I'm running out of time, I'll close by saying outreach, and then what's your plan? Outreach is simply, I spend every week 2 hours, sometimes more, but nevertheless, 2 hours on my website, my platform, as I call it, I'm looking, I'm seeing, I'm feeling, what's going, what am I doing? I spend time, if you go, for example, on my Instagram, I also curate my Instagram. So my Instagram, if you look at it, it's all black and white, and it's all skipping one after the other. So if you look, it's photograph, writing, photograph, writing, photograph, writing, and it creates sort of this art gallery, if you will. Some of the stuff is what I'm doing, like, Opine Film Festival. Okay. But some of it is just art, and it's all mine. Everything here is mine. All the writing is mine. Some are musings, some are poems, some are starts to poems. And we all know that sometimes the impetus to write is just by a sentence, and you're like, wow, I really want to. But the point I'm trying to make here is, once again, I'm branding myself as somebody who has an aesthetic eye. And then maybe that comes through in his writing. I hope it does. And that's why a publisher might be interested. So that's my Instagram. And then I'll finish. Let me get out of this. There we go. And I'll finish by what's the plan. So, like my wife will always ask me when I first started this, and she saw how interested I was in the writing process, hours and hours every morning. She says, "Okay, what are you doing with this? Where are you going with it?" So the short-term plan is the 3-year plan is I'm continuing to do more and more workshops. I love teaching. I teach creative writing. I cannot, probably like Doug and Lizette can, because I've read their works and their works are fantastic, but I don't have the technical know-how to take a poem or a short fiction piece and edit it for somebody. I cannot do that. But what I can do is I can teach someone to open their minds, to look at the world differently, to be an observer, because as artists, that's all we are. We are observers we are hyper observers. And that's what I do in my writing workshops. And some of these writing workshops I've been running for 10, 12 years, same group every year, every month. So the short term, and now I'm doing a photography class, which was a dream of mine. And again, I can't teach somebody the ASA speeds, but I can teach them how to look at a composition differently than they might have in the past. So I teach creativity. That's what I do. The long term, and this is my last thing because I'm looking at the clock and I'm running out of time. The last thing is my goal is to have these experimental films. One day somebody look at them and they say, wow, that guy was really onto something. That's all I can hope for. I'm not going to make a fortune with these experimental films. I am not going to, be the next Spielberg. But what I want to be is somebody who took a chance. And that goes the same with my writing. I want people to read my work and say, that's really interesting. He mixed prose and poetry. He did this and he did that. And then the last thing I'll say is I'm writing a TV series now that I believe very strongly, and I'm co-writing it with Aaron Jones, who's an amazing author. And my goal would be, with all of this platform, with all what's on my website, with all that I'm doing, an agent will look and say, maybe there's something with this guy. And that's what my hope is. Okay. So I'm going to take myself off. If you just bear with me a half a second, I'm going to take myself off the screen, and I'm going to take myself off of removing pin. Okay. So with the final minutes we have, I'm just wondering if anybody has a question specifically for one of us, and if not, general questions.
So I actually have a question for all 3 of you, and I say this only slightly facetiously. Do you guys actually sleep? I mean, the point is, you seem to do so much. How the heck do you, how do you do it? I mean, you said you write for 5 hours a day, and then you do all this other stuff. You do the photography, you do the website, you do Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How do you do it all, man?
Lizette, you want to start, and then Doug, and then I'll take it.
For me, the literary calendar is my lifeline. It helps me get everything done, but it also helps me keep from overburdening myself and stretching myself too thin. So I'm an introvert, and I like to do all kinds of literary things, but because I'm an introvert, my energy can go pretty quickly. if I'm doing day after day after day of gavel to gavel events. So I use the calendar to also block out days when I'm not going to do anything, including no writing.
Mhm.
And days when I'm just going to be lazy and listen to music and watch silly, stupid movies and reruns and things like that. So my calendar helps me get things done, but it also helps me not get things done. And I think that that balance is really, really important. I would just be lost without it.
Nice.
Cool, thank you.
The only thing I would add, I mean, Lizette shows it visually, is just be organized, disciplined, and make priorities, you know, every day for me, you know, the day begins with, just, I gotta be, that's gotta be my own space. But I treat the website and the publication stuff like I'm gonna do that. Writing's always first, but the publication, the platform building, and all of that material, you know, I'll do that. That's a nice thing to kind of like be working on in the side, in the background, when you're not, you know, necessarily focused on any project really intensely. The other thing is when stuff's burning, you got something in front of you and you want to work on it. I mean, when I was revising, I think the first draft, or just getting my novel ready to really go to the publishers. I mean, I would get up at 4:30 and I would start working in the morning, and I would work a couple hours in the morning before I'd have to go teach to work, you know, which would be at 10 or something. So I'd take like 2.5 hours just before anybody's awake. You know, I don't do that all the time. But, you know, when there's a project, you know, then I start adjusting my timetable. How about you, Paul?
So I agree with Doug. I'm very disciplined. And I do get up early to write. And I have to say that everything is put aside for the writing. So I would say that in the last 10 years that maybe I can count 5 mornings that I didn't write because I was either, you know, hiking, like getting up early to hike, or I had to go pick my kids up somewhere, whatever it might be. And then I never feel good about it. Like I know the next day, like I got to get back to it. And somebody told me when I started writing, and I was pretty bad at it, and they said, well, just do it every day. And I'm like, well, no, man, just do it every day. And she was right. Like, no matter how bad the writing might be, just keep doing it. And now, you know, I've thank God I've never had writer's block. I'm moving into, you know, I'll stop fiction for a year. I'll move over to poetry. I'll stop poetry. I'll go back to fiction. It's this, I think it's discipline. And I think that discipline comes into my, the nonprofit world, as well as my photography and my filmmaking. I kind of have that gift, although, you know, sometimes my wife says it's not a gift. She said she wants to kill me, so because I'm so damn focused. I also I want to mention, I hope that answers the question, but I also see there was a question for me from Lizette. So you would not submit writing, Lizette says, with photos at the start. You'd wait until the journal accepts. Okay, so I'm glad you asked that. I want to clarify. No, I submit my photography all the time to journals without my writing. If I see a journal that pops, and that really pop, like the aesthetic is there, it's super cool, I want to see my photography there, I absolutely will submit. And I'm telling you, in the last 6 months, I don't know what's happened, but all of a sudden, all these journals are like accepting my photography. I have this month alone 6 journals, you know, from the Sun, which is the biggest one that's ever taken my work. They pay a lot of money for your cover. You know, it's just wonderful. From the Sun to the Mud Review, to I just got off the phone today with 2. So 6 journals in 1 month. So the answer is no, I'm submitting my photography on its own. Any other questions?
I have one thing I wanted to add in, thinking a lot about what both Lizette and you, Paul, have said about being good literary citizens. And that is to use also, and this is part of the platform building, to use your platform, whether it's your Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, to also advertise other writers. So retweeting and reposting people's work, whose work you like, is always a good idea. And especially, if you guys are in journals together, like they pop in and they, that's a nice way that it amplifies you, and you can ride their coattail a little bit, but it's also a good citizenship process, because then they accept that, they appreciate that, and then you are, on their minds too later on. So it's good networking as a process too. So I always think that's a nice thing to do, is to also help other people with their platform building. That builds your platform.
I just enjoyed hearing the three slightly different approaches. Honestly, there's a lot of crossover, which I like to hear as well. And then I'm kind of in the middle of it. So my focus is also always writing. So that's also good to hear, because then if there's a push come to shove, what do I need to do? Yeah, I got to get that writing piece down first before I can do anything else. But what I like to hear is where else I can go right now. And certainly there's always room for improvement. So I really appreciate hearing everybody's thoughts. You just gave a ton of things to think about. So I love it. So thank you so much.
I want to, Lizette, you were going to say something, and then I wanted to just piggyback on what Doug said. So.
How did you know I was going to say something?
No, because you before Margie jumped in, I saw you unmute yourself.
Oh,
I can't read minds yet, but I can read mute buttons.
I was just going to dovetail on what Doug had said about good literary citizenship. When you're on social media, people are like, well, how much time do you have to spend on there? It doesn't have to be a ton of time. But like Doug said, not only should you promote other people's work, but also post opportunities that might be a fit for someone else in your literary circle and not you. Like, I don't really write poetry anymore, but I might come across a great poetry contest in a journal or Poets and Writers or online somewhere, and I'll post that. And that'll be my social post. It doesn't have to be about me or for me. It can be for, a screenwriter. I don't do that. It could be for graphic novels. I don't do that either. But it's still the writing world, and I'm posting it there, and people appreciate that. And you'll build up a reputation as a good source of information as well. And I did do this one time, and a very good friend of mine wound up winning that contest, and she hadn't heard about it anywhere else. So I just love stuff like that.
Any other questions? I'm looking also at the chat.
Well, I'm going to put another plug in for the business cards. I know you said they're old school, Paul, but they're not really. It's important, and don't be too cheap with them. You can get them done on Vistaprint. Use the 20% coupon. Make them a little bit different, eye-popping. And I carry 5 of them with me in a case everywhere I go. If I stop at Starbucks and I'm reading a book and someone leans over and says, oh, what are you reading? And it turns out that they're an author or they're an editor or they attended the San Francisco Writers Conference, exchange your business cards. Scribble on the back of it where you met the person, what you talked about, what their name is. And then when you come home, look them up and see if they're on LinkedIn and connect with them. During the pandemic, I keep, where is it? Here it is. Everything's on Zoom, so I keep this next to me instead. I go to an open mic on a virtual platform, not to read, just to attend it, but somebody in a chat says, let's all share our websites. We do that, and someone contacts me and says, hey, I'm interested in XYZ. Can we talk offline? I'll scribble their name down, what we talked about, what event it was, and I'll do the same thing.
I was also going to say that anytime there's an opportunity, you should always, feel comfortable. For example, like if you're on a virtual open mic, let's say, or even a situation like this, and let's say like somebody said something that really resonated with you. Don't ever be shy to say, hey, can I have your email? I'd love to shoot you an email. I mean, I can't tell you, and I'm sure I'm not speaking for myself. I'm sure we all are. I cannot tell you how many opportunities have come my way because I just happened to ask somebody for their email. And then I either reach out, I go onto the website and like, whoa, that person is like amazing. And then I say, hey, would you like to, come to my open mic, or would you like to share work? And some of these things have really helped me to go beyond my small circle. And that's what this is all about. The platform is growing your small circle, concentric rings out, 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 where it was New Jersey for me. And now look, we're on a call all over the United States. Granted, it's Zoom, but this is how you have to grow that the platform.
One thing I'll add in terms of what you just said, both you, Lizette and Paul, is that that's what's going to start happening too, is the more you're involved in this process, the more there'll be opportunities that come up for you that you had never thought of. I published a piece in a journal called Counterclock. So they asked me if I would be a reader. That gave me an opportunity then to ask and reach out to other writers I knew and loved, say, hey, this is a good journal, bring your stuff in. I got a piece published by an editor, and he ended up developing another journal called Mythaxis. He asked me to do interviews with writers. And so I got to Margaret Randall. I don't know if any of you have heard of her, beautiful poet. Tim Reynolds, the musician. David, what's his name? Guy wrote Big Fish. Darcy Steinke. I got to interview, and he provided all of the contacts. I had no way of contacting people. I wouldn't even know. So you know, be a good citizen. Make a good relationship with the editors when they accept your work. Be very gracious, whether they accept it, even when they do. I've said thanks for reading, even when I've been rejected. And Jerry, jazz musician out of Portland, just asked me to. I sent him some poetry, and Jerry jazz, and he asked me to. You've heard of it, Lizette? Oh, he asked me to do an article, an ongoing article for him, based on doing poetry and jazz, and that one now is I've got to come up with something, right? It's an assignment now, which is fun, but it's only a poetry anyway. And also somebody, I think it's such a good idea to publish in online journals, so journals that are going to get a lot of exposure, because I got approached by somebody who found a piece that they liked of mine and asked if she could translate it into Spanish. I said, yeah. And then I looked her up, saw some of her poetry. I said, let me translate some of yours into English. She said, sure. I got them into some good journals. Now she's starting a new journal in Colombia called Reed Carpet, and has asked me to be an editor. So yeah, if you guys have any stuff you're interested in publishing, I'm looking for poets to publish in this new transnational journal of multilingual poetry and prose. So these opportunities will start to happen the more you kind of put yourself out there. And so, Dave, you know, this is over time. This didn't happen in 2 weeks of, you know, sending out tons of poetry. This is after now a good 10 years, you know, of being at this. But these things will just continue to come as you just stay, you know, reasonably involved in doing it, reasonably in terms of your time and energy and effort. These are the things that will begin to happen. The platform will build itself. Build it, they will come. Yeah.
Any other questions? So maybe what we'll do, because we're just about out of time, maybe we'll just ask Lizette and Doug and myself, and we'll just maybe 2 or 3 sentences just to close out. I don't want to put you on the spot, so maybe I'll start. And what I would say is really just riffing off of what both Lizette and Doug said over again. I'm going to say it again, that take those opportunities. You know, start with, challenge yourself to read at a virtual open mic. They're all over the place, and, you know, pick a place and just find that virtual open mic, read, and see who else might be there. And if you like what they're doing, you know, take down their number, take down their name, reach out to them. And then one thing could lead to another, like Doug with this the jazz musician in Portland. I mean, and that stuff helps because it also builds community, and you build friends within the circle of this writing community. So that's what I would say. Keep getting out there, get on your platform, or as I call it, get on the mic and just keep pushing.
And you can start small with I like that phrase, get up to the mic. I remember my first conference I did, it was the Louisville Conference on Languages and Literatures. I may have had 3 or 4 pieces published. I mean, my CV was 1 page. And I was so nervous when I was up there. I was at a podium, they had this light shining down on me. I was reading from my manuscript and the words were crawling like ants on the page. That's how nervous I was. And the second sentence in the first paragraph would drop down to the third paragraph. It was terrible, absolutely awful. And I'll probably never love presenting in public, but you will get better at it. And the words now stay where they're supposed to. They don't move around anymore. But you have to get through those first few ones. And you can start smaller than that. That was not a good, opening reading. But like, now during the pandemic, like Paul just said, so many things are virtual. You can do it virtually, even though I actually am more nervous presenting virtually than in person, which I don't know what that's all about, but whatever.
All right. Well, the last thing I say is, this only works really when you're really feeling like you want to publish, if you want to build a platform. And so it's the kind of a relationship you have to develop with certain pieces that you've written and whether you want them to be public and how you got to have a thick skin about that to a certain degree, because you're going to get a lot of rejections. We all have. It's just part of the role. And so then once you have that amount of work or that stuff that you feel that can go public, and keep your sacred stuff sacred, but when you got your stuff that's going to go public, and you want to take it out there, this process will then start to just become kind of like exercise, going to the gym in a way. And the other thing I'd add is another thing that I've done to try to sort of broaden the platform is to reach out to other writers. If you come across, like, I read this guy's book, he wrote this book called Do Stand So Close to Me. His name is Jeffrey Campbell, and he played guitar with Sting back in the late 80s. And I read his book and I thought, this is a cool book. I enjoyed it. And so I looked him up on Facebook. I said, I dug your book. I wrote him that, and he wrote me back, and we were friends. And I wrote a little review for him on Amazon, and then he wrote a review for my book. And so these kind of relationships will come, and then people start. I've had a couple of people now ask me to write blurbs for their books. So when you start to even reach out to writers in ways like here or on Facebook or LinkedIn or however you find avenues to do that, do it again in a gracious way, but usually lead with some kind of, I've appreciated your work, I've seen it and I like it, and then just let it go from there. There's just so many more opportunities to connect now. I mean, I would never have written to somebody's publisher and said, just in case, will you pass this on? But now people are much more accessible, or some of them, somewhat. So they're just, again, I think you got to be comfortable, ready to start building the platform, have your material ready to go and feel like you're safe with it. Then have fun. It is fun, and enjoy the process. All right.
Well, thank
Who's
you all.
going to AWP? Who's going to AWP with me? Anyone in the audience?
I will be at AWP on Saturday.
Oh, all right.
I backed out this year. Sorry.
Okay.
It's going to be in Seattle next year, though.
Yeah,
so
I
you can all
know. But
come to my
we're
house.
staying at your house, remember?
Yeah, everyone, bring your sleeping bags. We'll have popcorn parties.
I just wanted to
Sure,
thank
go
you
ahead.
very much.
Thank you for letting us
Yeah,
be here.
thank
This is
you.
good for us too.
It was great. Thank you.
That was
Really
great.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good luck to
everyone.
you all.
Coming.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Keep swinging.